Let's look at how Kaizer Chiefs managed to beat Golden Arrows by 1-0. We're going to look at the responsibilities of each player and the tweaks that Nabi made when he made the changes and when the second half started. Let's start with Kaizer Chiefs' width and depth. When we're saying width and depth, width is obviously there must be someone wide and there must be someone in the middle. And what they did in this game, they would have the two wingers, which is one on the left-hand side is Upule Modi, on the right-hand side is Uklodi Lilepo, stretching the defense. And in the midfield, which is their depth, they'll then have those three. Sibongiseni Mthethwa and Ndlovu together, and in front of them Duduzi Shabalala. But that's not really good enough, because if you have three in midfield, then the other team is just going to put three. So what did Kaizer Chiefs do? They would then have Upaseka Mako inverting and becoming the fourth player in that midfield, ensuring that Kaizer Chiefs has enough options centrally. But what this also did for Chiefs, it allowed Mako to make those runs in the half space. And basically what that does for the left winger, which is Upule Modi, is to allow him to get the ball and then drive into the central space, because now what you will see is that Mako makes a forward run. And as he is making that forward run, he's taking defenders with him. And as he's taking defenders with him, now Modi can cut in and go into that space that was left for him. And when the ball gets to the other side, now you get to Undlovu, who, like Umunyane, are just standing close enough. Munyane is a bit more central, and then Undlovu, you'll find him more central, which is closer to you, and then Umunyane will be the one who is on the wider side, closer to Lilepo. Lilepo still holding his line, by the way. And since Ulilepo is holding his width on the right-hand side, then that means there's going to be space between the center back and the left back. And the center back cannot now move across to press Lilepo, because he knows that he's going to be leaving with Dupree. So he has to stay with the Duprees, and the other center back also can't do anything, because there's Mthethwa Shabalala, there's Pule Modi, also making sure that they are running into the box. By the way, another thing that you see at the bottom of your screen is Paseka Mako now running backwards, because Umunyane is now running into the box, which means there are two defenders left and Mthethwa in front of them. So that means we don't have enough numbers at the back, so someone has to go back and make sure that they cover for that. But we're not there. Where we are is that Lilepo gets the ball, and now isolated with the left back, he can now play the ball into that space. And Undlovu, if it's not Tumunyane, it would be Undlovu crashing the box. And in this time around, he wasn't expecting the ball. But in many other cases, it would be the one crashing the box inside those areas with that space that has been left behind for him. So that's what they were trying to do. And you'll also see with Tumunyane that his starting position, he's not just running forward to be up front, but he holds his run. And when the ball has moved forward, then he's making an attack to be there and be ready to strike the ball with venom in those areas. Or sometimes, as he's starting in that position and Lilepo is out wide, that means he's holding a defender with him. And with three people, four with Marco in midfield, that means Arrow's players are also occupied with players in the middle, which then leaves that whole entire space for Munyane to run into. And we've seen him do this in all the other games that we've played. Which brings us to Mthethwa Shabalala. Before we talk about Mthethwa Shabalala, do make sure to subscribe to the channel. Guys, there's a lot of work. I've been doing this thing for the past, I don't know, 8 hours making this video, and I'm sick. So subscribing means a lot to me, because I work a lot to make these videos possible to watch and rewatch and make sure that I see patterns in the game. So do make sure to subscribe. And if you've already subscribed and you want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the join that you see on your screen to become a member of this channel. Or if you don't see join down here, you can then click the link on the description or on the first comment to become a member of this channel. So Mthethwa Shabalala, you're about to see the best of Mthethwa Shabalala, what he can do. Right? He has the ball and he plays the ball to who? To Mthethwa, who then plays the ball back to him. He plays the ball to Modi, Modi plays the ball back to him. He combines again, there is a shot, and then he shoots, and then he scores. But it does not go in because, well, it goes in, but it doesn't count because I am so sorry, and I can't edit that out. But yeah, so Mthethwa, that's the good part that he can do. The issue is sometimes his movement is not that great because here he is close to Marco. There is space around, no one is overlapping between the two of them, and no one is dropping to come and collect the ball. They're just sort of in the same area and nothing is being done. And then eventually, when he gets to the ball, he's now not in control because he's being rushed. But if he had made that movement earlier, then that gives him that extra second to maneuver. And we saw this a lot in a match whereby his movement was not, what he's supposed to do. And I've shown you that he's capable of doing these things in the clip that I showed you previously. So I think that either the fact that he's not understanding how rotations work, because it's not just you are a 10, so you can be anywhere. Players can overlap. Like we are talking about Umako. Umako inverts and he becomes a second six because Undlovu will push up. Umako could even push up and almost look like he's playing a 10 alongside Umduduzi. So Umduduzi needs to learn to understand those things, because when it happens, you can't say, hey, he's in my position, what do I do now? Find space, right? So yeah, which then brings us to Mthethwa. So one thing we need to note about Mthethwa is that this is not his strongest suit. Getting the ball and turning and doing things, that's not his strongest suit. They're gonna press him. He gets the ball, they're gonna press him. He gets the ball, and in this case, he could play the ball across, and then the person who's next to him, which is Umako, can play the ball forward. But the fans have told him, play forward passes, leave sideways passes. Now, he's trying to force a forward pass, but it's not on, so the ball is blocked. Once again here, it's harder to find a forward pass. He could go back to the keeper, but the stadium is already booing him. So what is he doing? He tries to dribble past people. They win the ball back. Now he's in trouble. But that does not mean he doesn't have use. We've already covered his use defensively, but before the end of the video, we'll also look at his use offensively in the system. So the coach ended up deciding to make substitutions. With Umodi in this game struggling to take on people and sometimes making mistakes that you do not expect from him, right? And with who else was substituted? Udupri, not really giving you much in terms of presence in the box and his movements not being that well timed. So the coaches had to make the substitutions. So on comes Vilagazi, Sereno, and U Da Silva. So the first thing that you need to notice is that the moment that change happened, Lilepo then went to the left wing, which is where I prefer Lilepo to play, because then in that position he's able to cut in and take shots like this and make keepers safe. On the right-hand side, Mfundo Vilagazi prefers to tuck in, which meant now Umunyane would then be the one who's running outside of him and not running in the half spaces. And to be honest, after this, the offensive output of Munyane kind of dropped, because now the person who's operating in those half spaces is, Vilagazi. But that does not mean that he was bad. It just means that his role slightly changed. He was no longer the person expected to burst into space with the ball, but rather create space for Mfundo Vilagazi and make those runs, decoy runs that will confuse defenders. Which then brings us to now, how exactly Flavio is fitting in at Kaizer Chiefs. Look at this. The ball is carried by Mthethwa. Flavio Silva stops for a second. And then, as the defender wants to be tight on him, he turns. Now he's running into that space. If Mthethwa had seen that, he plays him on. But Mthethwa saw another better pass again, which was to Sereno. Sereno gets that pass and then gets his shot away. But unfortunately, he misses. If you look at Flavio again, you see that he's making a late arrival into the box. But he knows where the space is. And even here in the box, not trying to go inside, but he rather falls back and waits. Once again, look at how much space he finds himself in. But Lilepo decides to go on his own, which does not work. And the movement of the ball is what won Kaizer Chiefs this game. So look here. So you have two players making runs, dragging players and creating space between the left center back and the left back. You will see this as a theme happening over and over again. So you have this happening. You have Munyane making a run. Look what happens. He drags a defender with him, and that creates that gap between the defenders. And now Sereno can now run into that space, but they don't find him. And Usilva obviously is always ready to make those runs into that space that has been generated. But to make matters even worse for Arrows, you have Ulilepo keeping his width, staying wide, making sure that he ties that right back with him. But that means now there's going to be a gap in that defense. So if you look at all of this for the goal, you will see something that is very, very, very interesting. Because one, a minute before the goal went in, you see Mthethwa making a run with the defender, taking two defenders with him, creating space. Look who runs into that space, Gaston Sereno. But Umfundo this time around does not find him. And you also see that also creates space for Flavio Silva. Now, for the goal, you see the same thing. Mthethwa makes that run, and now he has taken a defender with him. And in that space that he made by making that run, there is now space for Sereno. And if you look at top of the screen, you will see that the right back is not tracking Flavio Silva because he's also concerned about Uklodi Lilepo. And with that momentary lapse of concentration, then Claudio Lilepo stays wide and Flavio Silva goes in and he scores that goal. And Kaizer Chiefs, just like that, win the game. This just goes to show that coaches will say that Chiefs are not convincing in how they are performing. I literally just showed you 3 patterns, and it's not the only ones, because even in the first half, these things happen. It's just that I did not want to bore you with the video showing you the same thing 7 times. I wanted to show you closer to the goal. There are patterns, and Nazrat Dinabi has cooked Kaizer Chiefs, and they are getting to where he wants them to be. Have you subscribed? Because if you haven't, do so. And also go check out how Orlando Pirates managed to beat Chippa United right here. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next one.